The now deceased Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi said on March the 23rd, 2006, in a video lecture to Columbia University, we have 50 million Muslims in Europe. There are signs that Allah will grant Islam victory in Europe. Without swords, without guns, without conquest, it will become a Muslim continent within a few decades. That was said in 2006, and look at what is happening one decade later in 2016. It is time that we start understanding, based upon the Islamic tradition started by Muhammad, called al-Hijra, which is the migration, the furthering of the goals and objectives of Islam through migratory practices, that we have a problem in Western civilization.
Will it happen here?
Well, it already has happened here. It is not just the migration of people here, but we have ISIS that are saying very blatantly that they will infiltrate any type of refugees that are coming. We see that in Europe. We also see the migration of a very vile and violent ideology, which was at the root of what happened there in Orlando, what happened in San Bernardino, what happened in Chattanooga, what happened at Fort Hood. But yet we have a president that continues to dismiss it and says that we need to disarm Americans in order to be successful against this onslaught.
I will use this power to protect the American people. When I'm elected, I will suspend immigration from areas of the world where there is a proven history of terrorism against the United States, Europe, or our allies, until we fully understand how to end these threats.
Now, he's doubled down on the ban on Muslims and extended it. Do you think it would work?
Well, first of all, let me say that I don't think we're going to find anybody going around with a gold or platinum or black card that says member of ISIS since 2013. And the fact that in Paris they used a knife, the fact that in Moore, Oklahoma, a woman was beheaded at her the chicken processing facility, and another one was about to be beheaded. So it's not about gun control. And when I think about what Donald Trump has said, it is about going and looking at our immigration processes and procedures, you know, granting visas to people who are coming from countries that are known terrorist havens. That's something we need to look at. When we know that the enemy is going to use migration and migratory practices to infiltrate Western civilization, to include Europe and the United States of America, we have to be able to combat that. Now, one of the key things we have to do, Stuart, we should not have groups like the Council for American Islamic Relations influencing and impacting our law enforcement agencies like the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the DOD as far as their training materials on Islamic jihadism. That's what the Obama administration has allowed to happen.
Okay, we hear you. Colonel Alan West, thanks very much for joining us, sir. Appreciate it.
Welcome to Behind Enemy Lines. Oh my gosh, we are so honored to have a great guest tonight. True American warrior, leader, one of the clearest voices on this critical issues. Lieutenant Colonel Alan B. West, United States Army retired, 22-year combat veteran. Lieutenant Colonel West served as the Operations Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, and beyond. He commanded troops in some of the most intense battlefields, earning the Bronze Star and numerous other honors for his leadership and courage. After returning from the Army, he continued his service as a member of Congress from Florida's 22nd District. Today, he's a senior fellow and a commentator and a tireless defender of American values. What makes Lieutenant Colonel West especially vital for tonight's discussion in deep firsthand experience on radical Islam, having faced jihadist threats on the battlefield and has been a relentless critic of groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, CARE, and the networks exposed in cases like Holy Land Foundation trial, all in my backyard here, by the way, in the Southwest Side. He understands the ideology and infiltration strategies and the civilization jihad playbook. He's never been afraid to speak the truth about the existential threat he poses in our republic. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West, welcome to Behind Enemy Lines.
Hey, thanks. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks for having me on, Terry. And hey, I'm a paratrooper. We like to go in behind enemy lines. That's what we're trained to do.
Yeah, it's Illinois, in the communist state of Illinois, and it's unfortunately it's kind of true here, and it seems to be getting worse every election season. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it, and I think this is timely for for us personally, people that have been watching the show, because as we discussed before, it's like it's been in my backyard, right? There's a mosque in Bridgeview that actually started in 1969. It was funded by Saudis and Kuwait, and now grew into this massive complex. It just exploded. They have houses, so like my aunt and friends still live there, and the houses are like $290,000. It's a Southwest Side blue collar neighborhood, they have mansions and castles around this mosque. It's unbelievable. You know, me and Ben Bergquam went back there, and they're just expanding, expanding, and now they're gobbling up Catholic churches around the whole
Hmm.
community. So it's going to be great for you to help my audience understand what they're doing and why they're doing what they're doing, how we have to understand why they're doing this, and they're kind of infiltrating and expanding within our communities and then getting involved in politics. You know, we even have politicians that are reaching out for them for endorsements, which is,
Yeah.
you know, they're doing it for a short-term gain for political expedience, but it's going to hurt our country. So, you know, we'll let you go, you know, wherever you want to go from there. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
feel free to share maybe your views on what I just shared with you and how people should be concerned, and we'll go in any direction that you want to go from there.
Well, I think it's very important for us to understand that this is not our first foray into dealing with Islamism, and that's how I want to characterize it. I don't think we need to put any adjectives in front of it, not radical, not moderate, not any of these things that we try to use to codify it to make it more comfortable to us in Western civilization. As a matter of fact, it was the president of Turkey, a known Islamist, President Erdogan, who said that it's just Islam. There is no
Yep.
moderate Islam. There's no radical. It's just Islam. And
Mhm.
so we need to start listening to them. And as Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are the first time, believe them. And so the first time United States of America had the opportunity to see Islamism was back during the presidential term of Thomas Jefferson. And this was early on with the Barbary Wars. And of course, Thomas Jefferson had to try to understand why is it that we are having these problems with this group of non-state, non-uniform belligerents out on the high seas who are seizing American shipping and kidnapping Americans and demanding ransom. And when he was in France, working there as an emissary ambassador, he asked a day of Algiers, "Can you explain to him?" And the day just basically said, "We're commanded to do so by our in our Quran and by our Prophet Muhammad." And so you hear a lot of people saying, "Well, even Thomas Jefferson had a Quran." Well, Thomas Jefferson believed in the Sun Tzu premise of know yourself and know your enemy, and that's why he
Yes.
read the Quran. And of course, what was his response? And Jefferson was not a warmongering type. He was a very rational, reasonable, intellectual type. But yet, when he understood who the Barbary pirates were, what inspired them, what drove them, he sent the United States Marines, and that was our first expeditionary operation. Was the shores of Tripoli against the Barbary pirates, and we defeated them because Jefferson said, we cannot continue to, pay this ransom and allow them to take our American citizens and kidnap them. So here we are, fast forward to where we are today, and I would just say to everyone that is, listening here and watching, go and pull down the Muslim Brotherhood Strategic Memorandum, their explanatory memorandum, written in on the 22nd of May, 1991, by Muhammad Akram. It was found in an FBI raid in 2004 at the home of, I think it's Ishmael El Barassi, who was the head of the Al Hijra Mosque there. And it lays out exactly what they want to do here in the United States of America. And you coined it right, the civilization jihad and everything that it means. And so when you have the opportunity to have someone's blueprint for what they're seeking to do, to undermine your way of life, to undermine your culture, your civilization, when they list all of the organizations that they're going to form to be able to do that, you got to be stuck on stupid to not take it for what it's worth and say no, we're not going to allow this to happen. And so often, the whole thing about Islamophobia, xenophobia, racist, whatever. uh, a Muslim is not a race. And I
Yes.
think that we have to stop looking at this as some religion and see it for what it is. As history has shown us, since Muhammad did the hijrah from leaving Mecca the first time and going out to Medina, it is a theocratic political system that is bent on global domination. And you just articulated something that I think a lot of people should scratch their heads and say, is turnabout fair play. Show me in any Islamic dominated country where Christians can go out and build churches. They can go out and build communities. As a matter of fact, Christians in Muslim-dominated countries are struggling to survive. I mean, being
Yeah.
it in the Middle East, Syria, being it in the Sudan. I mean, you name the place, they are being slaughtered. They're being persecuted.
Mhm.
And so, I will also go and say, when was the last time you saw the President of the United States of America be able to go and visit Mecca and Medina? But yet, if we were to say Muslims are not allowed to go to Washington D.C., oh, you're
Right.
Islamophobic and all these things. So if you have an ideology that is saying to you that you can convert to be who we are. If you don't want to convert, then you should accept a subjugated status. They call it a dhimmi status, Dhimmi.
Hmm.
And then, of course, they dictate to you how you can live in that dhimmi status, paying the jizya tax and all of these things just to be able to survive. Or your third option is that we kill you. This is
Yep.
all of these principles are clearly laid out in the Quran, in the Hadiths, the traditions of Muhammad. And so, why is it that if we are saying exactly what they're saying, repeating what they're saying, illuminating people on what they have written, if we're pointing to history, why all of a sudden, are we being demonized, denigrated, and disparaged as fomenting violence and things of this nature? When you can read in the Quran where it talks about beheading people because they're infidels. I'm a
Yep.
Christian. I will not be ashamed of saying it. I believe in the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. He's the Son of God. I believe in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Well, guess what? The Quran says I'm an infidel. And what do you
Yep.
do with infidels? You behead infidels. You make war against the infidels. If you meet the infidel on the battlefield, you strike them about the neck. Now, why don't we look at the Quran and say that's hate speech?
Yeah.
But instead, we have so many people saying, well, if you start talking about, marriage and speaking out against, abortion, which is, dismembering babies in the womb, that's hate speech, even though you're quoting, you know, verses from the Bible. But
Yeah.
yet, we are allowing people to come and live in and amongst us who have a completely different philosophy of governance, which is antithetical to our constitutional republic and our rule of law.
I'd like to answer you two questions that you could elaborate on for the guests too about care and the was it Homeland Foundation or
Holy Land
Holy
Foundation.
Land
Homeland
Foundation.
Foundation? Both are embedded in this Bridgeview Mosque with the leaders and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And they are all tied and had affiliations and stuff. As as I'm doing research on it because this just popped up. It's been there for the longest time, but it gotten
Mhm.
so bad. All the malls, strip malls, everything's all in Arabic. Everything. I mean,
Yeah.
it's where I grew up as a child, and I understand people come. My Italian side of my mom's family and stuff. And you have Little Italy, and that's what they say.
But they
Oh,
assimilated.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It said they assimilated, and I'm glad you reinforced the point that I made about the churches and stuff. So when they came after me in Ben's video, they said we're coming into your communities, we're cleaning them up, and we're buying your bankrupt churches, which is not true. And I said, well, I go, how would you like it? Because they're mostly Palestinians where I'm at, where I grew up at.
Yeah, but
And they said,
okay, again, let me correct you. There's no such thing as a Palestinian.
yes,
Exactly.
Oh,
at
okay,
least,
okay. The
well, let me
whole
finish this.
introduction.
Yeah, let me
The whole,
finish this and then explain
yeah.
that to the people, right? So I said, how would you like it if we went into Gaza or the West Bank and we started buying mosques? So the guy that's going back fighting with me, our mosques are growing so rapidly there, you'll never buy one. Besides, there's only like, I don't know, 400 Catholics in Gaza or whatever. I said, yeah, that's because you killed them, burned them, or beheaded them. I was being sarcastic, but true. So he's trying to, I was using your point to say, hey, we can't go into your neighborhoods. And all of a sudden you're attacking me because I'm kind of baffled that my community of 5,000 people, which has no Muslims or you know, Islamic people at all in the whole community, but they bought this mosque in the center of my community.
Yeah.
They don't even live there.
Yeah. Well, and again, this is part of that four phases that I have spoken about, which is the migration, the population, the agitation, and then the domination. And the question we have to ask ourselves here in America, what phase we're in. When you look across the ocean to the United Kingdom and France and some of the other Western European countries, you can see that they are way past deep into the phase three and probably getting into phase four. But you brought up a great point. The Holy Land Foundation trial, which was the largest Islamic terrorist funding case in United States history, that happened right here, not too far away from where I live. I live in Garland, Texas. It was based centered out of Richardson, Texas, and that document that was found, the explanatory memorandum in 1991, in 2004, the FBI raid, it was translated and it was entered into evidence in that Holy Land Foundation trial, and that was in 2008. And this organization, the Council for American Islamic Relations, they were named as an unindicted co-conspirator in this
Yep.
case because they were a front group for guess what? Guess who? Hamas. And of course, you just mentioned Gaza, and of course, we know that Hamas has ties back to Iran. So here we have an organization, the Council for American Islamic Relations, who at my last count, they still have their national headquarters on Capitol Hill, on the House of Representatives side. But yet they are an unindicted co-conspirator in the largest Islamic terrorist funding case in United States history. These are the things that, if I'm glad that I do have hair, maybe I can pull some of it out. But it's frustrating to me when I see elected officials who do not have the courage. I mean, if anything, they're showing abject cowardice and
Yes.
standing up and saying, here's a document that lays all of this out, all of the organizations. Why aren't we, people come out and, well, there's an executive order banning the Muslim Brotherhood. There's an executive order banning care, but they don't do anything. They don't follow up with it. Anybody
Exactly.
that's associated with these organizations, if you're an American citizen, you should be, charged with aiding and abetting a terrorist organization. If you're not an American citizen, you should be deported. It's very simple. These organizations and affiliates should not be allowed to. Muslim Student Association, they're named in this explanatory document. The North American Islamic Trust, which is really the funding mechanism for a lot of these the mosques being built and things. I mean, like we have here, this epic city. Now they're trying to call it the Meadow. They should not be allowed to exist. And so I think that the American people need to rise up, push past the name calling and the phobia this, phobia that, and start demanding that our elected officials not kowtow to this, quote unquote voting block, but start to look at them and say, what you believe in, show me where it's consistent with our values. Show me where you're consistent with freedom of religion. Because as a matter of fact, if you're a Muslim who leaves Islam, you're condemned to death under apostasy. And there are several countries, Islamic dominated countries, that still have that on the books. So
Yes.
there's a line in the sand. I really have to, use that Obama metaphor since we're talking about Chicago anyhow. But
Yeah, yeah.
there's that line in the sand that we've got to make sure they've crossed it, and they're pushing us again, and we got to push them back across that line. And this is not, again, being xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist, or anything. This is about looking at what people say, what they believe in, and saying we're not going to tolerate that here. We're dealing with the most intolerant belief system that the world has ever known.
Yeah, and the funny little story. My son just graduated high school, and one of his buddies is a Muslim kid. Like he's I forgot the Croatian and something else. But we went back to Bridgeview. Coincidentally, my son's like, "Oh, you got to go to his buddy's restaurant." So we're there on a Sunday afternoon, and I ordered a beer. Guys, again, this is all new to me. I ordered a beer, on the way to, then he walked away, and my son's buddy's like, "Oh, Mr. Newsom, you just insulted him." I said, "Why?" Because they don't serve alcohol here. I
So,
said, "Okay." I said, "Why am I insulting him?"
yeah,
Because you know. I go, "No, I don't know what." He goes, "Now," I'm like, I go, "That's news to me. I didn't know any restaurant." I mean, that's where I grew up, and it's
yeah.
like he's all worried about me insulting the guy when I ordered a beer. Big deal. It's like, talking about assimilating and stuff like that, which is just that's a little snapshot, not very relevant, but it's how they think.
Well, it is, and what you see happening is they are imposing their ideology, they're imposing their will on us. And I think another thing we have to really be cognizant of right now is this red green alliance. That's what I call it. The
Yes.
Yeah.
Marxists and the Islamists coming together. Because it's kind of like that whole the metaphor about the frog and the snake. The snake wanted to get across the river, so he asked the frog for a ride, and of course the frog takes him across the river. As soon as they get across the river, the snake bites the frog. And the frog said, "Why did you bite me?" He said, "I'm a snake. That's what we do." These Marxists, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. They need to be very careful because they are just being used by the Islamists to gain more electoral power control. And the absolute embodiment of this red green alliance, first and foremost, it was Barack Obama. And now we have Zoran Mamdani. But you see Hassan Piker, you see this guy running for Senate in Michigan, you see it all over the country. And so, really and truthfully, what we are facing in America is an ideological battlefield. And
Yes.
and I think so many people, this whole Republican Democrat thing is starting to, fall apart. It's an ideological battlefield because America is, as we get ready to celebrate 250 years of our independence, It's about individual sovereignty. It's about
Yes.
individual freedoms, rights, and liberties. But when you look at Marxists and when you look at Islamists, they don't recognize, they don't regard the individual. You just heard Zoran Mamdani talk about replacing the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. That
Yes.
is pure Marxism.
Yes.
And then, of course, when you look at Islam, it does not regard the individual. I mean, it is all about the ummah, the community. And so that's what we're facing here in America. And we got to have some courageous leaders to step up.
Yeah. I mean, look at what's well, first of all, I want to go back to the Red Green Alliance that you mentioned. And I mean, I guess we can blame our public school for not educating people anymore, but if these commies understood the history with the Red Green Alliance, they'd understand, they're only an ally as long as they're needed. All you have to do is go
Yes.
back to the Islamic Revolution in 79 in Iran when they took over.
Yes.
As soon as they didn't need anymore, the commies got the bullet first, as they say. They killed over 10,000 of them. Then we can just wind the clock. Look at Europe right now. Now that the cancer is fully metastasized, they don't need the Greens anymore. Yeah, in the UK, they're voting for them right now, but this was their buddy. Otherwise, now they're going a separate direction. Suddenly, they don't care about women's rights or the gays or whoever else because they never did. This is a false alliance that they used to push forward to gain their power. And then once they don't need you anymore, you're going to get the same beheading as everybody else. But the problem right now is we're seeing this cancer slowly spread to the United States, and we're seeing the same excuses here from the left, from others. They think, they're just different. It's just a little different culture. No, the lack of assimilation is not the same. It's one thing to have Chinatown or Little Italy or whatever else. They're still here to become Americans. They're still speaking English. They're not sending back all their money to their fatherland or whatever.
Yeah.
They're here to become Americans. The same with people that
And
move
like
here from.
and you could buy a beer.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a more compatible culture. Whereas here they are to dominate and take over. And, Dearborn's been an issue for a while. Now we've got little Palestine in Chicago. You've got Epic City going in Texas if they don't put the brakes on it completely. And you've got other projects in North and South Carolina. Like this is about taking over just like it is in Europe. And if we don't listen soon, the religion of peace is going to start beheading people here just like they have been in Europe. I mean, they've beheaded two more people in the last 72 hours, one in Italy, one in Germany, and these are getting almost no attention. And this is after the horrible incident that happened last week in Northern Ireland, and they're still on fire there. But the good news is the people are starting to wake up.
Well, the interesting thing is that when you look at the media reports of what happened in Belfast, all of a sudden, people are rising up against a person with a different skin color. Or, they try to, shift it over to something that is very accommodating for the
Sure.
leftist media and for the Marxists, instead of saying, here was a person that sought to, stab a guy and then sought to behead him. Look, we can go all the way back to, with this regular alliance, we can go all the way back to Nasser in Egypt,
Yeah.
when he was trying to accommodate the Muslim Brotherhood and get them to, join him as he became an affiliate with the Soviet Union and with Russian communism. And they like, no, the only thing for us is Islam. That is supposed to be dominant. And I think it's so important. People need to read the charters of these organizations, like the Muslim Brotherhood, like Hamas, Hezbollah, all of them. This is not about peace. And I know that there are going to be the people who say, oh, they're an aberration of what Islam is. No, they're not. You go back and again, you study and understand, who Muhammad was and what he did. I mean, when he started from 622 AD on, this was about violence. This was
Yep.
about imposing, his belief system on others. This was about wiping out entire, groups of people, tribes, the Banu Qurayza there in Medina, and then the Banu Quraysh tribe in Mecca. And then, of course, what does he do? He sends letters. He sends letters out to the Persian Empire, the leader there, Khosroes. He sends letters out to the Byzantine Emperor, Heraclius, and he says, look, this is what you do. We want you to convert, or you can live under our subjugation, or we will wage war against you and kill you. This whole thing, jihad. I mean, you hear people talk like jihad is some hot yoga thing where you try to get in touch with yourself. No, it is about them getting in touch with you and waging war against you. And so, again, I just think that it is time that we stop dismissing and rewarding bad behavior. This is one of the greatest Pavlovian experiments I've ever seen. You
Yep.
continue to reward bad behavior. You continue to dismiss bad behavior. What are you going to get? You're going to get more bad behavior.
Yeah, you've been doing this, you're ringing the alarm for I don't know, 20 years or so. Have you seen things get any better with people taking this serious now? Like, look, I lived there forever, now I'm like, oh my
I do
god,
now. I
yeah,
mean, the fact that we are on your program and talking about it, the fact that I see people showing up at city council meetings, the fact that here in Texas, during our primary, we had a ballot initiative that passed for like 92 or 93% to ban Sharia law here in the state of Texas. So, yes, I see people that are rising up, but what we need to have are elected officials that rise up. I mean, the people are one thing, but the elected officials need to rise up, and the elected officials need to call this out. And some are. You have the Sharia caucus up there in the United States House of Representatives, and you're getting that growing here in the state of Texas. But we need people to, if there's anything, it should be a bipartisan issue.
yeah,
Yes.
It should be the preservation of our nation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have politicians here. I mean, in Illinois, there really isn't any Republicans, honestly. They're like old school Democrats, but we have politicians here that are Republicans that are pandering to these people to get their endorsement.
Even taking money from them.
Yeah, and it was on Al Jazeera, and I chastised them because it's supposed to it does and to your point, it shouldn't be a Republican or Democrat issue, right?
Yeah.
And it's a short-term gain for their own election purposes that's hurting us in our country. I mean, it's hurting our country and our children's future, and they should not be part of that. But then they're greedy and they're worried about votes.
Yeah. Well, I truly believe that you can push the American people to a point, and then they will rise up and say, the switch will flip. It'll go from off to on, and there'll be a different reaction. And so I would say that there's going to come a point in time when people will push past these elected officials.
Mhm.
They will see them as corrupt, and they will see them as being concerned, as you just articulated, their self-interest or special interest, and not the American interest, not the interests of their families, and not the interests of their future. And you see it here in Texas. All of a sudden, people starting to pay attention to, why are these burqas showing up here in Texas, and these hijabs. I think that Texas has now just had its 263rd mosque being built. And again, I come back to how many churches are being built
Yeah.
Yeah,
in Islamic dominated countries. So when tolerance becomes this one-way street, it leads to cultural suicide. And I
Yes.
think that people are going to say, okay, we don't want to go down this road. We don't want to go down this path. And look, I have three grandsons. One's 5, one's 2, one's due on the drop zone in December. I'm not going to leave them a mess.
yeah,
I promise them that.
that's what I
And
meant.
those people out there who say that, we're going to come after Colonel West, bring it, baby, because
Yeah,
I have no fear.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Well,
better be faster than the speed of lead.
yeah, we have as I was getting ready for our interview, and again, this is new on my radar, right? So I mean, like just in the last month, I mean, because of all the stuff that's happening in my neighborhood, we have 193 mosques in Illinois. I was kind of surprised, and they're growing rapidly. And then since I put that video out, I have so many people really on Facebook that were sending messages about wanting help in the community.
Yeah.
I was amazed at that, and then they're scared to put it on Facebook. They put it in a
Huh.
DM message, and they want me to come out there. They want to shed the light on it. Just west of here, just in the last few weeks they announced they bought 135 acres of a Holiday Inn. They're converting
Mhm.
into a Muslim retreat center.
Mhm.
Yep.
Well, we had they were going to have down in Grand Prairie the Muslim only day at a water park, and it's a public water park. And the people in the community said, "Hey, what gives? You can't tell us that this water park, which is funded by public dollars, all of a sudden is going to be exclusive to one group of people." No, and there was pushback. But the one thing you just brought up is about people being afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
If you go back and remember the San Bernardino Islamic terrorist attack there, it was in December, I want to say, 2003 or 4, somewhere in there. But there were people that knew something was going on in that home with Saeed Farouk and his quote unquote wife, Tashfeen Malik, who
Hmm.
came to this country with some very nefarious immigration policies. But they were afraid to say anything. Why? Because they didn't want to be demonized and denigrated as you're Islamophobic. Just the same as Major Nadal Hassan. He was an army psychiatrist there at Walter Reed, And there were many complaints against him. But guess what? They were told, keep your complaints down because we don't want racism or this xenophobia or whatever. And so they transferred this guy down to Fort Hood, Texas, and look what ended up happening. 13 people lose their lives, 31
Mhm.
people are wounded when he, began shooting inside a facility there. So we have got to break through this self-censoring
Mhm.
of being afraid to speak about these things. Because if you stand on the side of truth, if you have the moral high ground, you have an obligation as a
Yes.
citizen here in the United States of America to speak the truth. You have an obligation to, support and defend this Constitution and this constitutional republic. And you cannot allow people to browbeat you down
Mhm.
and make you afraid to speak up and to speak out. There are some people that take things, too far. There's no doubt about it. But we don't need the antics. We don't need the gimmicks. We just need to say, this is what you say. This is what's in your book. This is what you have done through history. We don't
Yes.
want that here in the United
Yeah.
States of America. Now, if that's what you believe in, maybe you should go somewhere else. And I'm being very honest. Now, there is an opportunity. I don't believe in the whole moderate thing, but we need to stand strong ourselves because there are reform minded individuals in the Islamic community that they came here, they wanted to get away from that. But if they continue to see us being fearful and being afraid of standing up, if they continue to see this expansion, I recently had a guy on my podcast out of England who, left Islam. He became a Christian and he's had to live in hiding because they have the fatwa out against him because he's an apostate.
Mhm.
Now,
Yeah.
how is it that in the United Kingdom, a person has to live in fear for their lives because they decided to follow the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ?
Yeah, yeah. Hey, Mike. Let's play the 250th anniversary event that Colonel West is going to be coming. It's only 5-10 seconds, and then when we
Sure, sure.
after we, Colonel, could you explain to people what Sharia funding is for homes and stuff? I'm assuming I'm just new to that, but
Sharia
they're doing,
banking.
yeah, they're doing financing out of this bridge view. It's like Sharia approved.
Yeah, it's non-interest,
Yeah.
it's yeah,
Sounds like a
completely different.
scam. So, like, or not a scam, but sounds ridiculous. Go ahead, Mike. It's only a few seconds. Play that.
Announcing Lieutenant Colonel Alan West as keynote speaker for the America 250 celebration. Join us Thursday, July 9th, 26 at Chevy Chase Country. VIP reception at 5 p.m. Shooting range with Colonel West at $50. Sign up today.
I kind of cut itself off there. Sorry about that.
That was quick. Thanks to I. Yeah, I made it.
Oh,
Okay.
well, again,
Yeah. So explain that funding.
well, it's not your normal banking system funding where, you go to a bank, you get a mortgage, you take out a loan, there's interest on that loan. It is, I can't really explain it in depth, but this is something where, again, the North American Islamic Trust money is coming in from outside of this country. People are able to, get that money in order to build mosques, in order to build homes and things of this nature, no interest whatsoever, because this is part of that Sharia law system, which
Yes.
is again not compatible with our rule of law, not compatible with a lot of our economic systems, financial systems, definitely not compatible with our system of jurisprudence and law. It's so amazing to me that you have all of these, leftist feminists and, out there talking about, supporting women and things of
Yeah.
this nature. But where was, what's the name? Megan Rapinoe, the
Yeah.
soccer
Oh,
player?
yeah.
Where was she when the Iranian female soccer team was seeking asylum in Australia? Nothing. You didn't have a sound, which again comes back to that whole red green alliance thing. They will align themselves with people that they think will enable them to have power and control in this country. Then they don't have principles. They don't
I
have
don't care when
values.
they're done.
It's
Overall,
just
genocide.
relative to whatever they
Eh,
see in the moment.
yeah, there's no truth but power. And that is how the left views the world. And if they think that they can use the Islamic vote to gain more power, they will. But again, they won't understand that at some point they're going to pay with their head. I mean, you look at this other, blue-haired moonbat activist that just got free flying lessons in Gaza. They just threw him off the roof of a building a couple weeks ago because he went over there. He was gay. That doesn't fly. And to go to the Sharia banking guys we're discussing, I mean, this isn't even compliant with our banking regulations now, and nothing's done about it. I've seen a few people point this out, but of course, we look the other way. Our government wouldn't want to be, racist or Islamophobic. So God forbid we prosecute one of these institutions. And over in Europe, again, we found numerous of these Sharia compliant banks in various nations that have been giving money directly to terrorists or handing it off to people on the ground. I mean, it's upside down and backwards, but the idea that somehow we're not supposed to act. I mean, again, you look at a pattern of behavior. All these Somalis up in Minnesota did not set up these Leering centers on their own. This is an organized effort because we have the same thing going on here where I'm at in Ohio with the Somali community. Over $2 billion in fraud now, $4 billion up in Maine, and an undetermined amount in Los Angeles so far. And why is it that 79% of the Somali community participated in one form of fraud to the federal government or another? I mean, it's almost like there's a pattern there, but if you notice it, it's you're racist.
Yeah, and it's not just that pattern. The other thing is that how many hundreds of millions of dollars have gone out of the communities in Minnesota and
Yeah.
Ohio over to Al Shabaab, which is an Islamic terrorist group there in Somalia. So
Yep.
again, yeah, I think it was the Pogo the possum. He had that great quote: "We have met the enemy, and he is us."
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just incredible that we see all of these things, but yet we continue to have a certain group of people, browbeat us down and beat us down when we see this, which is totally wrong. It's against the law. Or you have people like a Rashida Tlaib,
Ugh.
who is up there in her congressional office, and she has the flag of an Islamic terrorist organization. That's a Hamas flag. That's not
Yeah.
her flag. But you have that flying, outside of your congressional office, the office that the American taxpayers pay for. You're out there, proliferating talking points of an Islamic terrorist organization, or you have a person like Zohran Mamdani, who is sitting down and having the iftar dinner with Mahmoud Khalil, who was here in the United States of America on a guest student visa,
Yep.
fomenting violence against Jewish students. I mean, when do we take a reality pill, like in the Matrix? When do we take the red pill and we come out of this matrix and start to see things for what it is? But again, this is all about people that believe that these are enablers for us to get a political power and domination. But to me, I think the more we talk about this, the more this becomes an easy 60 to 65% issue for the
Yes.
American people. But we just got to continue to get the information out there.
I mean, family marriage enthusiast Ilhan Omar literally said that, she was there in Congress to represent Somalia. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what concerns me about this battle, right, for our country and the Muslim expansion and this radical Islam is that when I
Don't
first
say
got
radical.
sorry, yeah, when I first
Yeah.
got involved, I was never involved in politics until my twins. I was raised Southwest Side Italian Democrat Union family, and then as I got older, I got smarter. But the first time I ever got involved in politics, I went to my kid's school board about the forced masking
Yes.
and all the graphic porn. I mean, crazy porn, and I had poster signs made up to show and put it in the face of these board members. I couldn't get one father to help me. They were all scared. They were all scared. Like when I speak out, and I speak out aggressively because I feel like we're in a war. People don't know we're in a war and we're losing to all these different battlefronts. And nobody would help me. So we're talking about this battle, but I hear friends, oh yeah, there's a war here. I'm on the streets. I'm like, you guys won't even defend your kids in a school board meeting. Don't tell me you're ready to battle these people. They have to wake up and act like we're in a war. Until they do that, we're going to keep losing ground to
Yeah.
Islam.
Well, you just brought up a great point. Again, 250 years of American independence. Think about those 77 men who took the battlefield at Lexington Green on April the 19th of 1775 against a regiment of redcoats, and led by a deacon of the church, Captain John Parker. And Captain Parker famously said, "Men do not fire unless you are fired upon, but if they mean to have a war, let it begin here." we got to find those kind of men
Yes.
again here in the United States of America.
Do you have any ideas where we can find them? I'm trying.
Well, I think that it's time we start to poke men in the chest
Yeah.
and say you
Yes.
can be a male or you can be a man,
Yeah.
and make the decision. And I will tell you that I've had these discussions in many churches. We need to have pastors that
Yeah.
get up there and
Oh my
preach the
God.
word of
Yeah.
God and stop watering it down, trying to be politically correct and things of this nature. So I think that there has to be an awakening, and it has to be an awakening with true American men. Uh, because when I look at the other side, uh, they stand for everything that is wrong,
Yes.
but
Yes.
yet they have such a motivation and an inspiration, even though they know that they're wrong, but because we're not meeting them on the battlefield.
No.
So we need to find that spirit of the, spirit of 76, if you want to put that, but the
Yes.
spirit of those 77 who stood on that battlefield. And there wasn't an America at that time in 1770. There wasn't an army, a navy, a marine, but they were
Right.
just men,
Yeah.
Mhm.
men that knew they wanted to be free and they wanted to have liberty.
Yeah. After I was in that stupid story, SPLC, November 30th of 2022, and then they republished it out of Washington D.C. This before I didn't know what was going on then, and I was put less than 2 weeks later. I was on a domestic terrorist watch list, right? And then the FBI showed up to my house in 2023,
The
and
Biden FBI.
Yeah.
yes, yeah, and my wife, she screamed at me, screeched at me. I got to stop this. She hates this, right? You got to stop. You got to stop. What if the kids here? What if you got arrested? I don't know what to do. Then she broke down when she was crying hysterically, and I hugged her and she's like, you got to stop this, and I go, Carrie, I can't. I go, I'm going to die doing this. I go, the reason we're in this situation is that everybody is expecting somebody else to do this
Yeah,
for them. And this is why I started my show. This is why after they came after me, I first freaked out. Then I became angry.
you
Then
should.
I became like a full blown, like, I go dress up as Antifa. I film them. I work with Tom Holman. I send videos
Mhm.
from their protests and stuff and pictures. And I mean, I'm at war for our kids, and I am doing, like people worry about. I lost my job, so I mean, it's not like I'm not telling people to do something I wasn't willing to do.
Yeah.
I didn't want to lose my job. I don't want to put myself in a situation. But until people understand this and do what you're saying, we're in trouble, and we owe it
Well,
to our children and to people like you
yeah.
that fought for America.
Well, I would tell you if there's something that I could recommend you share with your wife, share with her the letters of Abigail Adams that she wrote to John Adams, because those are the type of women that we need to have also in the United States of America who will inspire their men to go out and do what's necessary. It's kind of like the women of Sparta. I go back and remember, Queen Gorgo of Sparta when the Persian emissary, was threatening Sparta, and she just looked at him and said, only Spartan women produce real men. And I think that we need to get
Yeah.
back to the point where we have women of Sparta, true women of America, that are asking their men to stand up and be the protectors, be the defenders, take up a place on the ramparts of the Alamo,
Yeah.
regardless
Yeah.
of the consequences and the ramifications.
Mhm.
But you can inspire, subsequent generations by your service and your sacrifice. That's what has to happen because, yeah, there's an onslaught that is happening. And again, all you have to do is look across the pond and you can see exactly what is going on. And whether or not we want that to be the future for our children and grandchildren, I say no.
Mhm.
And it's I don't care what names you get called. I mean,
Yeah.
we got to continue to do what's necessary. I remember when I was in Congress, and I got on Keith Ellison, who is now the Attorney
Oh,
General up there in
yeah, yeah,
Minnesota.
yeah.
The guy who took his oath on the Quran, talk about a conflict of interest,
Yeah.
um, because he spoke at a care meeting, and I went up one side and down the other on him. Basically about what we knew about care and things, and I got this. You need to apologize. You need to do all of this, and so you can go back and you can look at it. I think it may be the shortest congressional response letter in U.S. history. I sent a letter back to CARE with one word: nuts.
Think I've got that here. Give me a second here.
Yeah, it's in there. I think
Yeah.
someone just told me a few days ago that one of the Bridgeview police officers, was sworn in for something, and he had his hand on a Quran.
Yeah, but okay. And so think about this. You have your hand on something, taking an oath to a doc on a book that is completely antithetical to our rule of law. How can, like I said, that's a massive conflict of interest. You know, because you're supposed to be upholding the laws of the United States of America, the laws of your local jurisdiction, not any other system of jurisprudence whatsoever. And how can you put your hand on the oath of
Yeah.
something that talks about beheading people
Yeah.
because they're quote unquote infidels? They're not non-believers.
I again, one of the responses I had when they were coming after me, and I should just not respond to these people, but sometimes it just, I respond and they're talking about inclusivity and all this stuff, and
They define
we're not
inclusivity. See,
welcoming. I said, listen, you guys are the ones that wrap your women up like mummies, behead people, and strap bombs on your children. Don't tell me about how. There we go.
yeah, that was it.
Sorry, it took me a minute to get the right doc pulled up there.
But see, and if you're a student of our history, you remember that the 101st Airborne Division was surrounded at a place called Bastogne in December 1944, and the Germans asked for their surrender. And the division commander, Brigadier General McAuliffe, said that one word response back to the Germans. That's the type of resolve that we need to
Yes.
show here in the United States.
Yeah.
Well, we need people that are, actual, like you said, actual men that are proud to be Americans, that are willing to fight for it and defend it, that will, get in an argument with somebody if they're talking smack about our country. We can't even do that at a basic level right now. Instead, we're apologizing here and around the world. And one thing that's kind of come up with this World Cup being here right now is all these Europeans that are posting videos that didn't understand, just how great America is, to put it mildly, that they're here for the first time, seeing what this country really is. And I think this is also kind of pulled the wool from off their eyes, where they're seeing they've been lied to too. They've not really understood American culture in Europe, that they've been taught a caricature of it. But now that they're actually here and they see the patriotism, they see the Walmarts, they see everything else, they're starting to understand what this country. Yes, yes. Fight night at Waffle House. But they're starting to understand like who. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's amazing to me. I go and do a good bit of little pistol shooting, keeping my skills up. And the shooting range that I go to, he told me that since because we're hosting some World Cup games,
Yeah.
not just here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, he said you cannot imagine how many people from these other countries are coming in and they just want to shoot.
Really?
They
Oh,
want to
wow.
rent a pistol and they just want to shoot because they don't have the ability to do so.
Yeah.
And they see it's so empowering. I mean, they just thank him for allowing them to be able to come in, get a briefing and go through all of the little short training that they'll provide, and then they get to shoot a firearm.
Yeah.
We take so many of our freedoms and liberties for granted, but when you think about Iran, if I can bring this full circle, look at what they did to people who stood up for the simple thing that we have here, the right to petition our government for redress of grievances. 30 to 40,000 of them were slaughtered.
Yep.
That's what the Marxists and Islamists would like to see happen here in the United States of America. They would love to see us not have the ability to stand up to them and to be able to say there's only so far you can push me, uh, because they want that control, they want that dominance. And again, I think it's so important that we understand our history and the roots of this nation, and we get back to that. And we're a baby nation when you think about it,
Yeah.
but yet we're a threat to so many because of what we have been able to accomplish because of individual rights, freedoms, and liberties.
So what do you suggest? Like, so for instance, my old neighborhood, right? So I'm doing, your show with you, and I'm like pushing stuff out with Ben and trying to create awareness and let people know that, it's on our radar. But what can I do to further expose it or try to, like to let people know that, we know what's going on. We're here to try to change it. I know obviously you want to go after the politicians, but in Illinois, I mean, behind enemy lines, for real, really are. And so it's going to be hard to get
Well,
political cover. But is there anything you suggest that I could do? I'd like to do an event later in the year.
yeah, I mean, we could do something like that. But what I would tell you is that what you should do is there it is. I have it right here on my desk. That's the Muslim Brotherhood blueprint for what they want to do here in the United States of America. And I think it's so important that we pull this down and we get into the hands of every single American that we can. We should, go and visit our politicians and, sit there, put it on their desk and say, read this. It's only 18 pages,
Oh,
but
really?
it's probably the most powerful 18 pages, which lines out exactly what they seek to do, naming the organizations, naming their strat, the whole 9 yards. And that's why it sits on my desk because, if you know the enemy's plan, then
Yes.
you can survive.
Even with my ADD, I can handle reading 18 pages. And I'm gonna.
Well, I'm from Georgia and I'm a paratrooper, so 18 pages, that's just right up the right in line for me. I'm not a Northwestern graduate.
Yeah.
University of Chicago, right?
Yeah. I mean, being able to illustrate their real plan in their own words is very powerful. And
That is.
we have to take this threat seriously. Again, we've said this already numerous times on the show, but all you have to do is look to Europe. And you see exactly what they want to implement here. They're just further along than we are, but you do see the pieces turning. The excuse a few years ago is, besides Dearborn, Michigan, and a few other places, they don't really have any power in the U.S. Well, you have 4 years of an open border with, coordinated, I almost said coordinated attacks, and I guess that really is what it is, but a coordinated invasion with a lot of their subsidiaries bringing people in. And look at the result now. Now we have Zoran Mandani in New York, this Islamist. They increased their ranks, increased their numbers. We don't even know by how much because, again, the Biden's government didn't exactly want to track real stats. I mean, we had somewhere between 20 and 30 million invaders come in, and make no mistake, that's what they are. They're not all Islamists. But they've been able to centralize and capture power now in many states, and this is their goal that will continue to advance forward. They now have members of Congress who are not there to represent America. They are there to represent Islam, or in Ilhan Omar's case, I guess Somalia. And they will further their goals. They will continue to allow unlimited infinity migration from the Middle East and from North Africa and from other places where they can bring in more Muslims. It is not about protecting anybody or doing it's about furthering the Islamic agenda, and it's about destroying America. Because right now we are the last beacon of freedom and hope on earth, even though there are some other countries right now that are making steps in the right direction, like Argentina and El Salvador and Poland and Hungary. There are others that are trying right now. The minute our lights snuffed out, you will have totalitarianism around the world, and that's when the real mask will come off.
Yeah, when you look at the Eastern European countries, they remember the Ottoman Empire,
Yeah.
and they're not going to allow that to happen. And you remember how the European Union was trying to force them into opening up their borders, and they just said no. But yet you see what is happening in Western Europe. So you're right. I think that the goal now is you can, snuff out the shining city that sits upon a hill, the United States of America, the longest running constitutional republic that the world has ever known. Then you can claim victory and success. And that's why I'm really concerned about, this memorandum of understanding with Iran, because they're not going to change who they are.
No.
They're a tyrannical, theocratic, maniacal regime. They will continue to string you along. They have said, I don't know how many times, we don't want to pursue a nuclear weapon. We don't have a nuclear weapon. Yeah, okay, right. So the only thing that people like that regime understands strength and might. You got to crush them because that's what they seek to do to us. That's what they seek to do to Western civilization, to the Judeo-Christian faith heritage, is to crush it because they don't regard it, they don't respect it, they see it as a stench in their nostrils.
Yeah. I mean, they're literally building concrete bunkers and a new anti-aircraft defense over the nuclear sites right now as we speak. Do you really think they're going to allow us to come in and take that material as part of a peace agreement? Hell no. No, they're buying time. They're restructuring. They're probably moving more anti-aircraft and other missiles around. They're moving them through their cave system and everything else. They're getting ready for the next stage of the fight, but they're pretending to reach out and shake our hand. I mean, that's what I don't understand about this. Like, Trump should be hip to this by now. How many times have we had an agreement and then 3 days later it's gone? And yes, I understand one of those times it was Israel was the initial person to violate. Otherwise, it's been Iran every time, or their proxies. They have no intention of keeping this agreement, and that is also in accordance with their religion. It's taqiyya. You can lie to your opponents if it's in your interest. Yep. because if you're weak at the time and have a chance to be stronger and overtake them later, as long as it doesn't take you more than 10 years to do that, you can lie, you can sign peace agreements. I can't remember what that tenant's called with the 10-year rule.
That's the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. That
Yep.
was the tradition of Muhammad that was established when he tried to go in and overtake Mecca. He
Yes.
saw that the people there, the tribes, were too strong, and so he entered into that treaty. It was supposed to be for 10 years. He violated it after 3 years and wiped them out. So, yeah, I mean, all you had to do is read their history and read their book. You know, it's
Yeah.
kind of like what in the movie Patton, when George Scott Standard, they said, "Rommel, you magnificent bastard! I read
Yeah.
your book." I mean, just read their book and read what they say. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
Mike, you beat me to it when you just said I was going to add that was the next question about about their lying and stuff. Like, so it's not just a military purpose of lying, right? It's part of their Quran and as it relates to their religion. So, like in my old neighborhood, oh, we're peaceful. We're not going to expect, we're not following Sharia. We're not going to force
Yeah.
stuff. There's, they could lie and it's okay for them to lie. Is that not true statement?
No, it is absolutely true, and again, that's one of the that's in the Hadiths, the traditions of Muhammad, and that's also in the Quran. You're not to take Jews or Christians as your friend. That's one of the verses out of the Quran. So like I said, just read the strategic memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood. Read Bill Federer's book, about
Yes.
yeah, and it tells you everything you need to know. And so instead of us trying to create questions, just say, "Do you believe in this? Do you believe in that?" And then,
Yeah.
well, how do I know that you're not lying to me? Because it says you can lie to me. And I think that that's what we have to do. Use that moral high ground to twist them up. Hey guys, I hate to say this, but I got a 5-year-old grandson. I got grandpapa duty, and he has not had dinner yet.
No, thank you. We appreciate. Oh my God, it was an honor to have you on the show, and it's
No,
great. I'm going
pleasure.
to try to get something going in Chicago in the future.
Well, I'll see you up there in July.
Yeah, I'll see you. I'll see you in July. Thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And thank you for being in this fight because, like I said, if you read the date on that letter that you showed, I mean, that was like 14,
Yeah,
15
you're
years
ahead of
ago.
it. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I am so glad to see so many others, joining in this fight and coming to the realization that we are in an ideological war.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll see you. I'll see you next month. Few weeks.
God bless
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Yeah. Thank you for being here. And Terry, should I just go ahead and close us on out, or you want to wrap up a few things first?
No, we'll tie up a few things. We'll play the commercial again. Thank you. Thank you, Colonel. Really appreciate it. Oh, that was interesting. Kind of reinforced many things that we already know, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure some of our enemies from Bridgeview are watching.
Of course.
Boom.
Yeah. Singing the song of their people.
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, you just having somebody that's so well informed on that is refreshing. I'm still learning this stuff.
Yeah.
Just got this Audible book here, Mike. Let me see. Maybe because you're more well read than I am. It's called Sword in the Smicter, SCIM.
Oh, the Sword and the Scimitar.
Scimitar.
Yes.
Is that book?
Hang on, I'm familiar with that. I'm trying to remember if that's by Robert Spencer or somebody else.
Raymond Ibrahim.
Oh, Raymond Ibrahim.
Yep.
Yeah, I know him.
Defenders of the West, he wrote as well. So, no, that was really good. So, he's going to be in July 9th, 250th anniversary event, it's called. And it's going to be up in Palatine. And we're going to be a co-sponsor behind Enemy Lines. I'll be there. Mike's out. Unfortunately, he's in Ohio, so he won't be there, but I'll be there representing us. AM 560, and then the Unsafe Space. Jenny McGuire and Tommy will be there as well. Please join us. We're going to show this little mini commercial, and then Mike, you can come back and close it out.
Sounds good to me. Let me grab the commercial again.
Announcing Lieutenant Colonel Alan West as keynote speaker for the America 250 celebration. Join us Thursday, July 9th, at Chevy Chase Country. VIP reception at 5 p.m. Shooting range with Colonel West at $50. Sign up today.
Here we go.
All right, guys. Thanks again for joining us. And like Colonel West said, read the almost called them the Dark Brotherhood, the Muslim Brotherhoods, their operations. We got to understand our enemy, and again, the evidence is right in front of you. And actually, go ahead and pick up.
Yeah. I'll put that up.
And again, if you want to understand jihad, go get Annie's book right now. It's on sale right now on Amazon too. And the architecture of jihad. Again, this first book that she has deals directly with that, because it isn't just violence in jihad. It's jihad through migration. It's the monetary system. It's everything else. She lines it out. It's easy to understand. Does a great job. It'll buy 2 copies because you want to loan one out to friends. But guys, thank you for being here with us again tonight. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. We'll be back on Thursday with even more. Thanks again.